This fanfiction is created by Morningstar TM, who happens to be me, by the way. Link for the fanfiction in the archives of our own is in the description. Summary. Subaru knew that he was unlucky. He knew that he was weak. He knew that return by death was the only thing that made him important, but he viewed all of that as nothing as long as he had his comrades, friends, and the girl that he loved by his side. However, a shocking moment revealed to Subaru that he was too naive to think that he can trust those people that he stood by their side for more than a year. During his attack at Pristilla, he was so unlucky that everyone forgot him and mistook him for the criminals that he tried to save them from, and the result was 1 year of his life being stolen for over 100 million times. Managing to escape, Subaru shall rise up in a painful request for power, swearing vengeance on all of them where their deaths will not satisfy him. Chapter 1. An Oath Under the Moonlight. Lugunica, prison tower. He was hurting. He was burning. He was crushed. Inside the prison tower lay cells containing criminals from the worst caliber. Calling them the scum of the earth was an understatement, and the cells, for a lack better of words, was smelling of repugnant, unpleasant odor that even the sewer rats detested. One cell in particular was special, as it held a prisoner that the people dub as the Sin Archbishop of Pride, and his name is Subaru Natsuki. It has been a year ever since he was imprisoned, but for Subaru it was 100 million years. Obviously, considering the fact that he had repeated the same year for over 100 million times. And this was due to his special power of resetting the timeline to a fixed point of time in the past. This power, returned by death, the authority of envy, or at least that's what Subaru concludes, was given to him by the Witch of Envy Satella, an entity that is revered in this world as the equivalent of a demon king, or demon queen in case of her gender. Satella was the existence who swallowed half of the world 400 years ago, and to spare this historical tragedy, her race, the half-elves and elves in general, were abhorred and faced discrimination. A great example of the race of the half-elves was the silver-haired half-elf named Emilia. She was the first person that Subaru met ever since being summoned by the Witch of Envy, and she was the one who was extremely kind to save Subaru from being alone on the streets of Lugunica, and she was also the one that saved Subaru vowed to use Return by Death to save her whenever she was in a hurdle, as he fell in love with her on first sight. Subaru snorted, and released a dry chuckle. Love? Really? He didn't know that he was that naive. Anyways, Subaru faced lots of hurdles himself. Right upon entering the Margrave mansion, he had to fight off a mobbeast that cursed him to death twice, and prove his innocence to a raging blue-haired Oni that went by the name of Rem after she killed him, also twice. 1 month later, he made a fool of himself in front of everyone when trying to defend Emilia in the royal candidate selection for the King of Lugunica, as she was scorned and ridiculed in front of everyone, then suffer a beating at the hypocritic so-called finest knight, then be scorned by Emilia, who thought that he had ulterior motives for sticking with her. Then, while trying to save her from the witch cult, he got ridiculed by everyone around him, including the other royal selection camps, except for Felt. Then he had to fight a freaking floating whale that presumably killed the previous sword saint, Theresia van Astria. And then he had to kill the freaking lunatic that went by the name of the Sin Archbishop of Sloth, who was basically a spiteful thorn to Subaru's side until now. It all didn't end here. Shortly afterwards, he and Emilia were trapped in the sanctuary and had to finish its trials to free all of the people there. And Roswell had to be a freaking prick, trying to push Subaru to the limits and make him like himself, a nihilistic man who will go to all lengths for his own greed. In that particular hurdle, Subaru had to free the sanctuary before an army of carnivorous rabbits who eat everyone alive while also having to endure the evil, greedy attempts of the Witch of Greed to obtain him for herself, and use him to satisfy her boundless curiosity, while also saving the residents of the mansion from the horrifying duo of Elsa Granheit, a hit woman with a fetish of innards, and Meili Portut, a little girl with the habit of enjoying killing people with her ability to manipulate mob beasts just for the fun of it. Solving all of that actually gifted Subaru with Beatrice, a great spirit that was a specialist in magic. And even though her contract with him held lots of drawbacks, Subaru was truly satisfied. And it didn't end there. He officially became Emilia's knight, something that he was dreaming of, so that he can stay by her side and assist her in claiming the throne of the Kingdom of Lagunica. A year later, they all went to Pristilla to obtain a Byrexen crystal to host Buck in it, which forced them to accept Anastasia's invitation to Pristilla, a beautiful city built on a group of linked bodies of water. In that city, however, crisis struck when the witch cult proceeded to attack. Wrath, a psychotic woman who forced Subaru to loop 3 times in a row due to her troublesome authority that allowed her to transfer pain, injuries, emotions, and even death to everyone around her. Greed, a nigh-invincible narcissist that wanted to make Emilia his 79th wife because he had a twisted view of love and wanted to have everything to himself. And Subaru went ahead with Reinhardt to save her and managed to make a crack in his invincibility to allow Reinhardt to finish him off. And lastly, but not least, gluttony. The main reason that Subaru was here right now. A year ago, Gluttony's previous victims were Krush and Rem, something that made Subaru despise them greatly. He swore to enact revenge on the bastard, and 1 year later, his chance for doing so came true. However, imagine Subaru's surprise when he found out that there was not only 1 and 2, but 3 archbishops of gluttony, with one of them, Louis Arnep, being the one absent of the group, only communicating through her 2 brothers, Liba Tincatus and Roy Alfard, by possessing them. Subaru remembers clearly the events that transpired after Louis, possessing Roy, ate his name. She couldn't eat his memories for some reason, but his name was successfully devoured by her. He remembers the amount of humiliation that he suffered at her hands after he was forgotten, and by the hands of his former friends no less. Flashback. 1 year ago. 100 million years from Subaru's mentality. Thanks for the meal, Tsu. Louis Arnep's voice rang inside Subaru's mind as she released his hand, before licking the back of her hand that she used to grab Subaru's hand with. Subaru simply blinked at this, and both were staring at each other in silence, before... Huh? That's it? Subaru blinked in confusion. He knew about the authority of gluttony's effect when it devoured both the name and the memories of the victim, so Louis's shocked expression was expected and reasonable. What? But I ate your memories. How is that possible? Louis exclaimed in shock, but had to jump backwards as Subaru swung his whip on her. She then jumped on a lamp post and grinned upon realizing what had just happened while she was using her authority on him. So, your memories are not edible. We're taking a liking to you even more, Nissan, Louis said, flashing a grin at Subaru that showed her sharp teeth. Damned gluttony. Come down here and fight me fair and square, Subaru exclaimed in anger, trying to provoke Louis. In all honesty, he was trying to buy some time until help comes and takes care of his enemy of his. Don't joke around, Nissan. You are still 1,000 years away from laying a finger, let alone fighting us, Tsu. We wanted to have some more fun, but it seems that time is up. Enjoy being in misery. Pride, Louis said with a giggle, before she instantly vanished from Subaru's sight. Subaru released a breath he didn't know he was holding, and fell right on his butt. Gluttony did escape, which was unfortunate, but there was nothing that he could do about it. They managed to defeat Greed and capture Wrath, so despite the casualties, it was still a win to them. So all is fine as long as there were no more casualties. Subaru then blinked upon looking at his side, seeing Emilia approaching him with a worried expression. This caused him to smile brightly at her, before mustering whatever strength remained in him to stand up. Emilia-tan, Glad to see you're all right, Subaru exclaimed with a grin, which caused Emilia to tilt her head to the side. Excuse me? Do I know you? Also, what does the word tan means? Emilia asked in pure confusion, causing Subaru's smile to falter slightly. However, he thought nothing of it, brushing it off, that she was joking with him or something. Nice one, Emilia-tan. You got me there for a second, but you can't trick me. You're a knight who knows everything about you and sticking to your side like glue, Subaru said, resuming his joking manner, unaware of the confusion raising in Emilia's mind. What was that guy talking about? What does he mean by being her knight? She was going to make Garfield her own knight after all the effort said demi-human exerted to save Bristella. And right before she could say anything else, Emilia, stay back from that person, I suppose. Both Subaru and Emilia's attention turned to Beatrice, who glared immediately and flew towards Emilia, positioning herself in front of her in a protective manner while glaring at Subaru with pure hatred. Huh? Bayako? What is this? Emilia asked in confusion. And Subaru was even more confused that Emilia was calling Beatrice by the nickname he had given to her, despite her not doing that at all. This man, he reeks of the miasma. He's a Sin Archbishop, in fact, Beatrice exclaimed, causing Emilia to gasp, before she shot a glare at Subaru, summoning weapons of ice. Subaru felt the intimidation, and took a few steps back, only to halt upon bumping into something behind him. He turned around to see Julius, Felix, Wilhelm, Al, Reinhard, and the rest of the candidates standing right behind him. He saw as Julius, Al, and Wilhelm were brandishing their swords at him while glaring at him, while Felix also shooting a glare of his own at Subaru, but his own glare was even darker than the others. Beatrice-sama, is that true? Wilhelm asked the lolly spirit. It's true, in fact. Betty even heard Gluttony calling him pride, I suppose, Beatrice answered, causing Julius and Wilhelm to immediately point their swords at Subaru. I suggest you don't move. You're surrounded, Pride, Julius said in a calm tone, but his glare was indicating that he was anything but calm. Everyone then gasped as Felix immediately jumped forward, catching Subaru by the collar while looking him in the eye. Tell me what the hell Niao did to Crush-sama and how to cure her, you scum of the earth, Felix roared from the top of his lungs at Subaru's face. Felix, you shouldn't do this. Stay away from him, Julius warned his friend and fellow knight. Hey, I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's me, Subaru Natsuki. I'm your own comrade, Subaru exclaimed. Silence, you wretched scum. I can never have a comrade who is a genocide murderer, Wilhelm exclaimed, causing Subaru's eyes to widen in disbelief. Please, you have to believe me. I'm even a fellow knight. I'm Emilia's knight, Subaru pleaded with them to understand, but it all fell on deaf ears. Don't you dare speak those words on your mouth. The only one who's closest to being my knight is Garfield. He did so much for me in the past 2 years, and I was going to nominate him as my knight. Don't you dare say that you know me, you villain, Emilia exclaimed, unaware that she fractured a part of Subaru's heart with her words. He swallowed the lump in his throat. He refused to believe that it was over. He had to do something. Reinhard, I'm sure that you have a divine protection that allows you to detect truths and lies, and I'm sure that you know that I'm telling the truth, right? And surely you remember me as well, right? Turning around to face Reinhard, Subaru desperately pleaded with him. Knowing Reinhard, he was surely the ultimate evidence about his identity. He probably has a divine protection that will solve the situation before things would turn south. However, you're indeed telling the truth. My divine protection of wind reading indicates that you're not lying, but I can't remember you. I'm very sorry that I couldn't be of any more help, Reinhard said, opting a downcast expression on his face while hanging his head in shame. Subaru, saying this, cracked the smallest of smiles at knowing that someone believed him. It's fine, Reinhard. I can't ask you to do something more than your own power. Forgive me, pal. Subaru muttered, which didn't go unheard by Reinhardt, who whipped his head up while holding a shocked expression on his face. That's stupid, you all know that? Everyone turned around to see Anastasia, opting her usual trademark smile. What is Anastasia-sama? Reinhardt asked. Ya guys do realize that divine protections can be fooled by authorities, right? So that means that he might be playing on us, Anastasia said. As much as my self hates to agree with that vixen over there, she is actually right. And despite the fact that the cat knight over here looks pathetic, nothing is less pathetic than this scum of the earth over here. Putrid filth such as you should know their place, scum. Priscilla added her own 2 cents into Subaru's fractured heart, breaking it even more. It's true, Anastasia-sama. Besides, I have seen Felix being capable of fooling Krush-sama several times, despite her having the same divine protection that makes her distinguish truth from lies, Wilhelm said, glaring heatedly at Subaru, causing the boy to shrink underneath their glares. He already saw the will to kill in their eyes. They met with Synarch bishops, yet none of their glares were as heated as the glare directed at him. But he refused to believe that. He had to go forward. Beatrice, who gave you the permission to call out Betty's name with your filthy mouth, I wonder? Beatrice roared at him, causing him to flinch. Nevertheless, he swallowed the lump in his mouth. He had to say something, or else it will all be over. Oi, let the guy speak. I don't believe he can do anything to any of us right now, so let him at least defend himself, Feld barged into the conversation. Surely you jest, Feld-sama. This thing can never be placed on the same pedestal as any of us, let alone being recognized as a human being. Julius spat his words like venom. Tell me how to heal Krush-sama, you bastard. Felix roared from the top of his lungs, only for Feld to stomp angrily towards the cat knight and slap his hands away from Subaru's collar, before standing in front of the black-haired boy with a glare. Now all of you will listen to me here, you motherfuckers, or I swear to that shitty dragon that you all are praying to that I will unleash Reinhardt on all of you. And immediately after Feld's threat, everyone fell silent, with Wilhelm glaring at Reinhardt from the corner of his eyes, cursing him inside his head. There's no concrete proof that this guy over here is a Sin Archbishop, Feld said, only for Priscilla's turn to interrupt her to come. Oh, and what could be the proof, street rat? He was called pride by his fellow Sin Archbishops, and was called off by that great spirit over there for having a thick layer of miasma all around him. What are you getting at? Priscilla asked, whipping out her fan and placing it in front of her mouth, glancing arrogantly at Feld, who glared back at her attitude, but decided to shake it off since the current topic was more important than petty fight against comrades. For starters, it's unreasonable to go along with a baseless claim. How can we be so sure that this guy is a witch cultist, let alone a Sin Archbishop, just because a so-called great spirit said that he had a thick layer of a witch's scent? Second, I never heard of a thing such as an abandoning your comrade and leaving them to the enemy. It's called betrayal to me. What if we know him as one of our comrades and he got attacked by gluttony, and that was the reason that we all forgot about him? Third, my oh my, Feldchan, is it me, or are you defending a criminal? Could it be that you're an accomplice of the witch cult? Anastasia asked with the same annoying smile on her face, causing Reinhardt to flinch at this, before a glare appeared on his face as he marched towards Feld and stood by her side, glaring at the owner of the Hoshin Trading Company. Anastasia-sama, I hold respect and obedience for all of you, but I shall not tolerate any insult or horrid claims targeted to my mistress. Please watch your words, Reinhardt calmly threatened Anastasia, only for said person to sigh and shrug her shoulders at this, not saying another word. Anyways, before this bitch over here interrupts me, I was saying that third and the most important, this guy over here, I can feel it from experience, but he isn't fit to be a fighter. If anything, he's too weak to hold a sword, so I say no reason that points out that he's a Sin Archbishop. Felt finished her speech. Fairy-chan won't believe any of that, Felt-sama. Those witch cult scums can even betray one another for the sake of their personal safety, so it isn't far-fetched to say that he was abandoned after being deemed useless, Felix said, objecting to Felix's reasoning. Felix is right, Felt-sama. Those witch cultists can do even the unpredictable against any of us. Wilhelm said, "Oh, shut the hell up, old man. You're agreeing to anything that Walking Cat Furball says, and I haven't even seen you say any crap," Felt exclaimed, boiling from the inside at the stupidity of the people around her. In front of her was Felix, who looked like he could murder the poor unlucky guy at any moment, if it meant curing Krush from her illness. Julius, wanting to find answers about that comatose young man that looks like him. Wilhelm's loathing apparent on the old man's face due to the fact that the witch cult took his wife from her resting place, denying her the peace of the afterlife, and on his grandson for taking his wife's life yet again. Al's expression was unknown to her, but she was sure as hell that he was also pissed off for his own reasons. Anastasia was flashing her annoying smile. Priscilla was covering her face with her fan, showing only her eyes that narrowed at the sight of the emotionally broken Subaru. Beatrice was glaring at disgust. Emilia and Garfield were ready to bounce on Subaru should he make any kind of sudden movements, and Otto was rummaging through his pockets, fiddling with the mana stones inside of it, ready to throw them at the assumed witch cultist. In the midst of the silent chaos, Subaru tried to swallow the lump that formed inside his throat once again, before trying to speak. "Otto, back at the sanctuary a year ago, you reached out to me, saying that I have to rely at you because we were friends. You and Rom helped me in fending off against Garfield and convinced him to leave the sanctuary. Please, you have to remember that." Subaru pleaded once again, but before the merchant could open his mouth to speak, Garfield stomped forward towards Subaru, attempting to punch him in the face, only to be stopped by Otto. "The heck are you talking about, you bastard? My amazing self was forced to take the trials by Broto here. You have nothing to do with it. Stop spouting bullshit," Garfield yelled with pure fury, breaking Subaru's heart even further. "Garf, calm down. This is not the time to fight," Otto exclaimed, trying to calm down his little brother figure. "Otto," Subaru muttered his friend's name, feeling a slight sliver of hope that he might have figured out the inconsistencies occurring around them. However, "Please don't misunderstand. I prevented my little brother figure here from beating you up because you're considered a valuable source of information about our enemies. Nothing more, nothing less. And aside from Felt-sama here, I also think that due to Beatrice Chan's evidences, you are a Sin Archbishop, and I can never ever consider such scum to be a friend of mine." That line caused Subaru's heart to crack even more, with his eyes widening in pure shock, horror, and disbelief. He still had one shot, though. One last shot, before having to rely on return by death. He has to take all of his chances to the last one, and he will. Beatrice, please, you have to be reasonable. The proof is lying there," he pleaded. "What in odd are you talking about, I wonder? Stop spouting nonsense, you scum," Beatrice said, spinning out her words like venom, crushing Subaru's heart even further. But he still refused to give in. "Beatrice, it's there. We formed the contract. Our contract, you can sense. So, this is your authority. The ability to forcibly make contracts with spirits. Is that what you've done to Betty? You soiled her. Betty can't believe that such an abhorred existence would sully Betty. Curse you, pride. Minya." Not giving the poor kid any chance to defend himself, Beatrice made a hasty decision in a moment of anger, creating 30 purple stakes above her head before launching them at Subaru. To Subaru, everything was moving in slow motion as his heart cracked even further. He felt his contract with Beatrice completely vanish. indicating that she indeed loathed him to the core. He didn't move. He couldn't move. He wanted her to kill him now so that he can restart and fix this. He can clear all of that, and then they will all be together again. However, before the stakes could even hope to break his face, Reinhardt immediately spun and crushed the stakes of Yen magic with a mere swing of his arm, nullifying the attacks aimed at Subaru, who was wide-eyed at all of this. What? He muttered in disbelief. Sword Saint Donal, what is the meaning of this? Wilhelm asked his grandson, barely suppressing his fury at the action that Reinhardt took. I'm sorry, but something is wrong. Something doesn't feel right. I just don't know what. But I can feel it, Reinhardt said. Reinhardt, do not let your emotions get the best of you. This is an abhorred criminal, an existence that spreads madness and despair around him, so he needs to be killed, Julius said to Reinhardt. No, we shouldn't kill him. We should place him in prison and interrogate him. He must know something about the curse plaguing Krush-sama. Fairy-chan will not let this chance slip. For the sake of Krush-sama, Felix exclaimed in a crazed manner, and with a crazy smile that made Subaru shiver uncontrollably. Felix is right. He also might know the effects of gluttony and how to erase it. Let's take him back to Lagunica for interrogation. Damn it. Damn it, Subaru yelled from the top of his lungs, before pulling out the knife he had in his pocket, and was about to stab his throat, only for Julius to act faster than him and swing down his sword, cutting off Subaru's right wrist and causing blood to burst out from the stub. Ah! Subaru roared in pain and agony, before falling into the ground, spinning around while clutching the place where his right wrist was. He then saw Felix reaching for his face with his palm, and then everything went black. Flashback end. And ever since then, Subaru Natsuki was thrown to hell, as a torture schedule was set up for him. First, Felix would arrive asking the same question about how to cure Krush's blood from Capella's dragon blood, and each time Subaru tells him that it is possible if he could let him have physical contact with Krush so that he can absorb the cursed blood, only for Felix to fry his nerves and cause unbearable pain to course through his entire body. He would then force him to drink molten metal, which would melt away his organs, before healing him so that he could repeat the process. When Felix was finished, he would heal Subaru just enough to keep him alive. Next, Julius would enter with a wooden sword, asking Subaru how to undo the effects of gluttony. And which every time Subaru denies that he has knowledge about the topic, Julius would use his wooden sword and beat the chained Subaru to a pulp, not even giving him a chance to breathe, breaking his bones and fracturing his skull. The process would take a few hours before Julius leaves him. Afterwards, his former friends from his former camp would arrive. Rom would ask about the sleeping Rem and how to wake her up, as she knows that Rem was a victim of gluttony. Subaru always answers with no, and a barrage of fists would rain down at Subaru's face. Garfield would occasionally join in whenever he sees tears spilling from Rom's eyes, which causes his blood to boil, making him join in pummeling Subaru like a punching bag, with Otto watching from the side with a mixture of pity and disgust. Secretly, Subaru was glad that neither Petra nor Anna Rose were there to witness this inhumane treatment. For the rest of the day, the knights guarding the cell where he was tortured would torture him with various inhumane methods. They would force him to eat earth dragon diffuses, hammer down rusted nails onto his limbs, chop off his limbs, and mock him with it, with this particular method of torture being known for after knowing that he can regenerate lost limbs. Use him as a punching bag, force worms and centipedes into his ear, threw him in the remains of a garbage for his meals, and much more horrendous methods. By the time they were finished, the day would be over, with Felix healing him from all of the torture that he went through upon arriving first thing in the morning, and then clean, rinse, and repeat. This all lasted for a single year, before they all decided to finally execute him. In his first time being executed, Subaru breathed out a sigh of relief, knowing that he would be able to loop before the incident with Gluttony had occurred, and that he would fix everything with it. The execution was, needless to say, completely an overkill. Subaru would be set aflame, screaming in pain as he was burned to death, before Marcus Gildark decapitated him with his sword. The true despair, however, was when Subaru leapt for the first time, since he found himself right inside his cell again, and on the very first day that he was placed in it. This meant that Subaru had nowhere to go. He was stuck in an endless loop, and he can't save himself. He kept on repeating this putrid cycle for over 100 million years, and in the middle, he became bored, to the point that he can no longer feel pain. In the midst of his loops, he kept on hearing that the 5 camps tried to reach the Pleiades watchtower, in hopes of meeting the great sage in order to find a solution for the victims of gluttony and lust, only to always hear the same answer of the fact that they ended up in failure. Not that Subaru cared on anything, but something felt quite familiar upon hearing about the Pleiades watchtower. It was the same as Subaru hearing Satella talk about her love to him 1 year ago, and he felt as if part of him knew about Satella's confession of love, as if all of that happened to him before. Aside from that, his 100 millionth loop, his most recent loop, was the one that had the most difference, the difference that truly and completely crushed the heart of Subaru Natsuki. Flashback. A few hours before Subaru's 100 millionth execution, he was just sitting there in his cell, unable to do anything but bathe in the pool of blood and bile underneath his knees. A few hours and his execution will begin. Again. He remembers how Filt heroically tried to defend him by trying to drill logic into the minds of the citizens of Lagunica, but apparently their minds were overwhelmed with grief and fear to the point that they didn't want to listen to Felt's reasoning. From what Subaru understood, the Sage Council also shared her doubts about Subaru's identity as a witch cultist, as they also acknowledged the fact that there was no concrete proof that he was one, with only a great spirit's claim that he had a lurking miasma looming around him, and the vague claim of an archbishop that was heard by also said great spirit from another archbishop wasn't enough to deem Subaru guilty. However, the Sage Council decided to rule with the claim that he was pride, and execute him to ease the tension and hearts of the people. Such irrational reasoning made both Subaru and Filt spit at. They know that those bastards were corrupted and rotten to the core, but not to the point of killing some innocent person. Screw the ideology of sacrificing one for the many. As the so-called rulers of this accursed country, they are supposed to tend to their citizens, not to take such stupid decisions. Felt was right. This country needs to be pulled out by the roots, cut the slates off, and burn it down, to make a new and clean country rise from the ashes. Subaru was snapped out of his thoughts when he saw a new figure accompanying both Felix and Julius inside of his cell, and his eyes widened. Emilia. He whispered her name. He then saw her motioning to them to wait for her outside the cell. Subaru also noticed that lots of guards gathered around, holding ugly smirks on their faces. He didn't understand. Was that some kind of trick or something? Subaru. Emilia called out his name, to which it made him focus his sight on her. He didn't speak any other words, and waited for her to speak. Subaru, you are saying that you are my knight? She asked the question that made Subaru's eyes widen in shock and disbelief, believing that finally there was some sliver of hope that he can get out of here and solve this hurdle. Yes, I am Subaru Natsuki, your knight. I have always been by your side for more than a year. Do you finally remember me? Subaru frantically answered, a smile of hope forming on his face. However, all of his hope completely shattered upon hearing her next words. I relieve you from your knight duties towards me, Subaru. Huh? Subaru was shocked. His eyes were wide, and his smile was still plastered on his face. He couldn't believe his ears. This must be the worst nightmare, or even a really bad joke, right? They were all playing with him, right? Emilia would never say that to him, right? I hate you, Subaru Natsuki. I don't want to see your face ever again, Emilia said. And in that moment, Subaru's heart completely broke. His smile fell, and his wide eyes started leaking out tears, with his body shaking uncontrollably. Why? Why would you say that? I I did everything. Everything to be by your side. I can no longer see my parents, and they must be worried sick about me. I went through life and death situations, through thick and thin obstacles, for you to return my feelings, for you to accept them and love me back. I don't understand. Why? He muttered, raising his head slowly, only to see his answer right in front of him. Emilia's face, which was always gentle, bore a scowl that even Subaru had never seen before, staring down in disgust at his very soul. With Felix, Julius, and the knights guarding the cells of the prison tower behind him, Felix was grinning darkly. Julius was bearing a scowl of his own, and the rest of the knights were chuckling in a mocking manner before Subaru could hear their full-blown laughter. That's when he realized they were trying to break him, and they actually succeeded. Because at that very precise moment, something inside of Subaru snapped. Ah! He roared from the top of his lungs, rattling the chains binding his arms to the wall behind him. His tears flowing like waterfalls as Emilia turned tails and silently walked outside the cell. I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. I'll make all of you suffer. I'll plunge you all to despair, you ungrateful bitches. I'll make sure to give you no mercy, to the point that you will be crying tears. I swear that on my father and mother. Ah! His yells, his swears, his curses, his grief, his despair, his suffering, his humiliation. All were left unanswered, with the only action happening was Julius entering and hitting him with his wooden sword, knocking him out and silencing his screams. Flashback end. Sin Archbishop of Pride, Subaru Natsuki, come. Your day to depart from this world has come. A guard called out to the completely emotionless Subaru, who had a completely cold stare directed to the guard. His hair had long become completely white, and his black eyes became yellow. A truly complete makeover. The guard then went to Subaru, took off his chains, placed another pair of chains on his arms, and proceeded to drag him out of the cell and into the execution grounds of the prison tower. Looking to his sides, Subaru saw the same scene. He saw all of the camps, except for the Feld camp, Krush, who was absent due to her illness, and Roswell, looking at him in disgust and scorn, especially the Emilia camp, with all of them, sans Petra, Rose, Klein, and obviously Rem, being present to witness his execution. And as always, Subaru was glad that Petra and Rose weren't there to witness his execution. They were kids, after all. As he was dragged to the execution platform, where he was about to be executed, Subaru could hear the scorns and yells of the citizens being hurled at him. People even threw stones at him, cursing him and the witch cult. In his first few loops, Subaru was quite hurt by the insults, but now, he has long since cared about it. Upon reaching the execution platform, Subaru was forced to his knees when a guard hit the back of his kneecaps. He has long since forgotten the sensation of pain, so he didn't even feel the painful sensation of his kneecaps breaking. He then stared in cold silence as Marcus began his speech. Citizens of the proud dragon kingdom of Lagunica, 1 year ago in Pristilla, the witch cult attacked our royal candidates to the throne of the kingdom. But due to our courageous acts and resilience, they managed to take down one of those horrid Sin Archbishops and captured 2 of them, And now, we are here to witness the execution of another one of those irredeemable scum, the Sin Archbishop of Pride, Natsuki Subaru, Marcus exclaimed, where his speech was followed by loud cheers and roars from the people demanding the death of Pride. Marcus then marched towards Subaru, looking at him with disgust as a mage was behind Subaru, preparing to cast a fire spell to turn him to ashes. "Any last words, Pride?" Marcus asked the same question he asked from Subaru in each loop. Aside from Emilia denouncing him from his knighthood duties towards her and her confession of hatred directed towards him, nothing has changed at all. Same scene, same tortured methods, same humiliation, same scornful stares, same method of execution, same spiteful words, and every time Subaru would answer with, "I'm not Pride." This time, however, he had something else to say, something he had decided to say right after Emilia's visit to him. "I'm going to take my revenge from all of you. I'll make you all suffer, crumple apart in agony, wither away in despair, crushed down from humiliation, and I won't give you the mercy of death until everything you live for is gone for good. I swear that on my father and mother," he muttered while glaring silently at Marcus, who just stared in silence at him before giving a nod to the mage behind him. Subaru silently closed his eyes, awaiting his 100 millionth loop to end. He would think of a way to get out of the prison tower. He was thrusted in countless hurdles, and returned by death allowed him to overcome those obstacles no matter how much retries it took. The only difference that he was all alone now. Due to his weakness, he required support from allies around him to overcome all the obstacles he had encountered so far. He required Reinhardt to take down Elsa back at the loot house. He required Rem and Rom's assistance against Melee's mob-beast invasion on Irlam village. He required the assistance of the other camps, except for the Felt camp, to take down the White Whale and Betelgeuse. He required Otto and Rom to reason with Garfield's selfish fear that locked the residents of Irlam inside the sanctuary, and he required Beatrice to defeat the Great Rabbit. And all of that was centered around Emilia, to keep her safe, to make her return his feelings for her. However naive and foolish he was, all of them were traitors. Subaru may have realized it too late, or probably he was aware of it, but refused to believe it. He was all alone, right from the very beginning. The mage behind him charged his spell, and was about to fire it when suddenly, "What?" A cry of surprise alerted Subaru, forcing him to open his eyes, only to be assaulted by white light that blinded him and everyone, and before he could register what happened, his consciousness faded away. Unknown location. Blinking his eyes open and releasing a groan, Subaru placed a hand on his face and shook his head. He had to endure the tuning sound ringing in his ears, and to blink his eyes several times for him to see his surroundings clearly. And upon opening his eyes, he saw that he was surrounded by countless trees, indicating that he was in some kind of a forest. Subaru then proceeded to stand up, only to lose his balance immediately and fall face first on the grassy ground. This made him curse inside his mind, as he completely forgot that his kneecaps were crushed, disabling his ability of movement. Subaru looked at his side, and saw the nearest tree to him. He then proceeded to crawl to it, before he noticed that it was difficult dragging himself towards the tree. He felt a weight on his left shoulder. He then extended his hand towards the weight, only to see a large pouch, to which he opened, only to blink in surprise upon seeing a large amount of gold coins, judging by the rough estimation. The amount of gold coins inside the bag was more than enough to buy 10 mansions. Subaru narrowed his eyes upon seeing a folded piece of paper in the midst of the gold coins. He took it out and opened it. "Dear Subaru, if you're reading this, then that means that you're still alive after I threw you outside the country, and judging by the path that I threw you in, you're now in the Craggle Moving Forest, specifically next to the city of Fusumi in the country of Kararagi. Subaru's nasty eyes widened and nearly bulged out in a comical way upon reading this line. The distance from Kararagi to Lugunica is extremely long, even by dragon carriage, not to mention that whoever threw him there estimated the place Subaru landed in, and in full detail. Only one person springs to mind. The only question is why he did do this. Eager to know the answer, Subaru resumed reading the letter. I know that you are surprised, but please let me finish. This was the first time in my life that I do something like this. I always took orders as a knight and the sword saint of Lugunica, but right now, this is the decision that I made following my own heart, and felt Sama supported my decision immediately, saying that she was proud of me. Anyways, the reason I did this, as you already know, I detected that you were not a liar, but that's not what it was. You see, Subaru, whenever I apologized, no one pardoned me on my mistakes. The most they could do is to scoof an annoyance or wave it off without saying a word. But you accepted my apology. You pardoned me. Not to mention, Subaru blinked at the last line and resumed reading. A criminal who is considered irredeemable can never release a smile like the one you gave to me when I apologized about my inability to help you back then. Subaru's eyes widened at this, and tears started building in the corner of his eyes. He then sniffed and continued reading. I know that it will be really tough while alone, but I believe that you were indeed a friend of mine, and a valuable one at that, and felt Sama shares the same sentiment, even to the point of calling you Big Bro. And to be honest with you, this is one of the times where I'm glad that I found Felt Sama and forced her to enter the royal selection. She still wants to try to kick me in the face, though, but up until now she can't seem to succeed. I still wish her luck, though. Subaru chuckled at that line, knowing Felt's attitude, but also knowing that she was always kind on the inside and knew the person in front of her and their personality. He silently wished that she succeeds in the throne of this accursed country and bring it to true prosperity. Time is running thin, so I shall get to the point. Inside this bag on your shoulder is a huge sum of money for you, and at the bottom of it there is a special magic potion. Drink it to heal your broken wounds and injuries. I'm sorry that I couldn't do anything, but I had no time after I released that attack to distract everyone from you. Subaru blinked at the last few words. So it was Reinhard who released that blinding white light. Figures. Only he is capable of such an attack. Not even the light of an attack coming from that bastard Julius could even rival that of Reinhard. Following Reinhard's advice, Subaru dug his hand inside the bag of gold coins and pulled out only to see a bottle containing a green liquid. Wasting no time and relying on his trust for Reinhard, Subaru took off the cork on the bottle and chugged it hungrily. The potion surprisingly tasted sweet, and Subaru was feeling rejuvenated. And upon drinking it, he already lost his sense of taste after being imprisoned, but the sensation of satisfaction still remained. He tried to stand up, and he was relieved to be able to do so, but then he sat down, knowing that he can't waste any more energy considering the fact that he barely ate anything during his time in prison. Releasing a sigh, he resumed reading the letter. I'm not going to ask you to forgive them for their ignorance, especially after what Emilia-sama did to you. But please try to be careful, and I promise you that I will find a solution to the effects of gluttony on my own end. And after that, I hope that we meet again as friends. May our paths cross again one day. Reinhard van Astria. Subaru finished reading the letter, and tears broke down from his eyes, and a smile that he thought that he had long forgotten had returned to his face. All the time suffering from all of this agony, Subaru thought that he was all alone. He thought that all hope was lost, but in the midst of that darkness, a hand of benevolence was extended to him, the hand of a pair of true friends, and he was truly glad that someone believed him. Suddenly, Subaru heard a sweet lullaby playing in his ears, before the wind rustled the trees and white snow cherry blossom petals started scattering beautifully around him. His eyes stung slightly as the silver rays of the moon assaulted his eyes, but shortly afterwards he was able to adjust himself to it. He took a deep breath, feeling the air around him. He repeated the same year inside the prison for 100 million times, with the putrid scent of moth and defices being the only thing assaulting his nostrils. So when the scent of fresh air laced with the fragrance of the white snow cherry blossoms entered his nose, Subaru felt like he was reborn, and that was no exaggeration. The lullaby playing inside Subaru's ear, on the other hand, was extremely sweet, and the curiosity aided him to know where did it come from. This made him fasten the bag of money on his shoulder, before walking towards the direction of the singing. He didn't know how long he walked. It may even took him hours, but he managed to reach the destination. But what piqued his interest and surprise was that there was no one that was singing. Moreover, the singing seemed to come from a sword stabbed into a stone, and the stone seemed to have something written on it. Suddenly, the singing stopped, and a booming sound echoed in Subaru's ears. Holy Sword, Garvelnus. Subaru flinched at the authority packed within the mysterious voice. Before silence screamed around the place, Subaru was unsure of what to do, but the beautiful sword was right there, stabbed into the stone pavement in front of him. So that meant that he must do something sooner or later. Not to mention that staying right there for a long time would be dangerous to him, considering the fact that he was hungry. Even if he didn't feel the taste of the food, he still needs sustenance like any other normal human being. Mustering the courage inside of him, Subaru took a step forward, but nothing happened. No mysterious voice, not sudden movements, nothing. This made him take another step, only for nothing to happen yet again. This encouraged him to keep on walking forwards, towards the sword, stepping forward and speeding up his pace, until he finally reached the sword. However, instead of trying to pull it out from the stone, Subaru fought his curiosity, and knelt down to read the writings on the stone. Whoever manages to pull this sword means that their identity is the very great sage Flugel, the sage of all mages. It has been a long journey, isn't it, my dear friend? Erasing your memories does indeed feel awkward, right? I'm sorry that I'm not by your side. 400 years is just too much for a human being after all. Volcanica won't be of any help considering how he became senile, and I'm pretty sure that Reed is an asshole, even if he managed to live up until this point. On to the topic in hand. The moment you pull out this sword, you will regain your memories about your time as a sage. I don't know why did you decide to erase your memories, and why did you plant this sword as a means to recover them, but one thing's for sure. You're a dumbass for leaving poor little Shula and Satella all alone in that tower of yours back in Lagunica, so you better get them out of there. Finally, I really wished that I would meet you one last time before my departure from the world, but it seems that this wish will never come true. All I can do to you is to wish you the best of luck and fortune in your new life. Your friend, Alec Hoshin. Subaru needed a few minutes to register all of the information that he acquired from reading the stone pavement. First, the great sage's name was Flugel, which was the name of a star, something that was completely awkward. Second, it seems that this Flugel guy was an acquaintance with not only the divine dragon of this accursed kingdom, but also with someone named Reed, and Subaru remembers that he read about that name. According to what he read, this was the name of the first sword saint, as well as the name of the dragon sword Reed that Reinhard is holding. Third, it seems that Flugel knew Satella and someone called Shula, and judging by the mention of the tower in this message, it seems that both Shula and Satella are in the Pleiades watchtower, which at the farthest end of Lagunica. Fourth, this man Alec Hoshin seems to be the same Hoshin of the Wilderness, the founder of Kararagi. This was also a proof that Subaru was indeed in Kararagi. Where exactly he was in Kararagi was currently unknown, but he will settle to this. Fifth, and the most important, was this sword. It seems that whoever pulls it indicates that he is the great sage Flugel, and it would mean that there must be a penalty to who tried to pull the sword and was deemed unworthy of it. Subaru shuddered. He already saw something similar while playing video games and watching anime and light novels. If someone is unworthy of pulling the sword from the stone, it will result in them either being cursed to eternity or facing death, and Subaru didn't want to return by death anymore. He feared that his save point might not have been updated, and that he would return back to that cell. This will make all of Reinhardt's efforts to save him become completely in vain. But how could he be able to move forward if pulling a sword was that scary to him? Regardless of the consequences following said actions, then he should forget about taking his revenge from all of them. He won't be able to move forward with his life. If you go in your cruise, Sama, Fairy-chan will kill you, your scum. Shut up. Filth of the earth. You will tell me how to undo the effects of gluttony, or else your suffering will be even more grave, and even then, scum like you do not deserve mercy. Shut up. Tell me how to wake my sister up, you bastard. Tell me how to remember her. Shut up. My amazing self will pummel you to the ground if you don't fess up, you trash. Shut up. You took my wife from the grave, and now you torment others too. Just how much agony you want to induce on others. Shut up. Don't misunderstand. I can never be a friend with a genocide maniac like you. Shut up. How dare you? How dare you sully Betty with your filth, in fact? Betty would have killed you here and now, I suppose. Shut up. I hate you, Subaru Natsuki. Shut up, 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 shut up. He roared for those memories that repeated themselves inside of his head to stop, and he had enough. His frustration was raised to its limits. I'll show every one of those bastards. As he yelled those words, Subaru grabbed the sword from its hilt with both hands, and used all of his strength to pull it. Suddenly, he felt like he was flying backwards, and gasped upon feeling the impact of his back with the grassy ground. It wasn't that he felt the pain or anything, but he was quite surprised with the sudden impact. Right afterwards, Subaru gasped once again, as a plethora of memories invaded his mind. Memories that he didn't even expect to know about, but for some reason, he did. It all started to make sense to him now. The more the memories entered, he kept on having his eyes wide as they stared into nothing but the blue sky of the night, with the wind howling and the white snow cherry blossoms dancing in the air around his immobile body. A few minutes later, Subaru blinked and gasped, sitting up while gasping for breath. He then noticed that the sword impeded in the stone was now in his right hand, held in a reverse grip, but that didn't matter right now to him. I remember now. Telatan, Shula, he muttered, remembering his true origins, his past, the past that he forcibly sealed away, and this made him grit his teeth. He sealed away his memories so that he could live a normal life, and in time, he would be able to save Satella, but it was all ruined by those bastards. He wasn't able to live his life peacefully as Flugel, or even as Subaru Natsuki. And all of that was because of them. Because they ruined his life. Because they had shoes for brains and couldn't think properly for themselves. And most importantly, they scorned his Tella. Subaru slowly rose up to his feet, grinning his teeth as he did so. And he used Garvelnus as a supporting cane to force himself to stand up. I'll make all of them pay. I'll show them no mercy. I'll grow stronger to show them all what I'm made of. I'll neither forgive nor forget. I swear on my father and mother. And right there, Subaru Natsuki made his oath under the moonlight, an oath that he will stay committed to no matter how long it will take from him. I will destroy them. Unknown to him, 2 prophecies on the dragon table in Lagunica spelled the words that would shake the country for the incoming future years. 1. The sixth dragon maiden has appeared, and 2. The great sage has returned to the world of the living, and shall release his wrath on all. Status window. Name Subaru Natsuki. Level 1. Species human. Main job none. Sub job none. Skills none. Authorities returned by death. Invisible providence. Unique skill none. Equipment Holy Sword Garvelnus. Well, that's it for the first chapter, everyone. This is where the first chapter ends of my own fanfiction. And, yeah. Please forgive me if I stuttered or some words differed from the written chapter. It's my first time to record anything like that. Well, I hope that you all loved it. And, if you all loved it, I want you to subscribe and comment for more content in the future. And I'll make sure to release the next chapter as fast as possible. Thank you all for listening, and this is Morningstar TM signing out. Peace.